Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Onyi Okbala. Let's begin. Southern Cameroons continues to face mounting security and humanitarian challenges as fresh incidents of violence, crime, and infrastructure concerns emerge across several communities. Recent developments include the kidnapping of a Catholic priest in Ngarum, growing fear among residents of Mile 6 Nkwen in Bamenda over rising insecurity, the discovery of the body of a missing 23-year-old woman in Bafoussam, and renewed calls to suspend toll collection on the deteriorating Bandja Bafang road. Together, these incidents reflect the complex challenges confronting communities across the southern Cameroons, where insecurity, public safety, and its concern and failing infrastructure continues to affect daily life. As residents seek greater protection and accountability, civil society groups and local leaders are urging authorities to take decisive action to safeguard lives, improve essential services, and address the root causes of the ongoing war. Now let's get the news, but first the prime headlines. Here are the prime headlines for tonight. Fear grips Mile 6 and Nkwen as insecurity spreads across Bamenda neighborhoods. Also tonight, FOCACO demands suspension of toll gates collection on Bandja Bafang Road, citing worsening road crisis across southern Cameroons. Also tonight, missing 23-year-old woman found dead in the bush after 2-day search in Bafoussam. Tonight as well, gunmen kidnap Catholic priest in Ngarum amid persistent insecurity in southern Cameroons. On the African scene, Burkina Faso hits Canal Plus with heavier fine over state TV access. While on the global scene, U.S. welcome Chad's ICC exits, urges more nations to leave Hague-based courts. Now let's get the news. Info briefings. Residents of Mile 6 and Nkwen in Bamenda say growing insecurity has spread across several neighborhoods, including Sterlites Junction, Ntabenke, the Industrial Zone, and Mbelem, turning parts of the community that were once considered safe into zones of fear. Some residents said people now rush indoors by around 5 p.m. because of mounting fears of kidnapping, robbery, and armed attacks. The residents alleged that some victims have been abducted for ransom, with demands said to have reached as high as 12 million francs CFA. Others, they have said, others have also been threatened at gunpoint and robbed of their mobile phones and valuables in broad daylight and at night. There are also suspicion within the community that some individuals may be passing information about potential victims to the armed groups carrying out the attacks. Residents say they continue to hear reports that some abducted people remain in captivity with families struggling to raise ransom. Community members link the surge in crime directly to the ongoing Amazonian war in southern Cameroons. They say the collapse of livelihood, displacement, proliferation of weapons, and breakdown of community trust over the past 8 years have created a fertile ground for criminal networks and armed groups to operate. According to an eyewitness, it says, before the crisis, Mile 6 in Nkwen was one of the calmest parts of Bamenda. People walked at night, businesses closed late, a resident disclosed. Today, the war has ended normal life. Young people are jobless and guns are everywhere. This is what we are seeing, according to the eyewitness. Other residents noted that French Cameroon security forces are overstretched while trust between the population and authorities has eroded. The result, they say, is a security vacuum that armed actors exploit. Residents are calling on their competent authorities to urgently reinforce security across the whole of Mile 6 in Nkwen. Their demands include regular patrols, a stronger presence at major junctions like Sterlite and Ntabenke, and targeted operations to dismantle kidnapping rings. Well, according to the eyewitness, it says, every evening we are prisoners in our own houses. We need the state to come back to its original state. Mile 6, we need to feel protected again. Well, beyond immediate security measures, residents and civil society actors say a lasting solution will require addressing the root of the problem. What is the root of the problem is the question. Of course, the ongoing hostilities in southern Cameroon. Community leaders are urging political, traditional, religious, and civil society stakeholders to call for an inclusive dialogue to end the war. They argue that without a political resolution, insecurity will continue to spread from rural areas into urban centers like Bamenda. Security alone will not stop this. As long as the war continues, people will be suffering, a Mile 6 elder said. Well, all they said is they need stakeholders to sit together with the government and with the leaders, civil society, traditional rulers, and find a way to end the hostilities. According to them, their children deserve to grow without fear. Human rights groups in the northern zone of the southern Cameroons have made similar calls in recent months, warning that civilians continue to bear the heaviest burden of the war through killings, abduction, and economic collapse. For now, life in Mile 6 in Nkwen has slowed down. Markets closed early, bike riders avoid night trips, and parents are free to send their children to evening classes. Residents say they are not asking for much, just the right to live and work without fear. The residents are saying that authorities must act before more people are harmed. Oh well. As of press time, there was no official reaction from the administration on the specific security concerns raised by Mile 6 residents. Well, away from that, let's get into the FOCACO Foundation. The Cameroonian Consumers Foundation, known as FOCACO, has called for the immediate suspension of toll collection on the Bandja Bafang selection of the National Road 5, describing the heavy way as virtually unusable and accusing authorities of collecting fees on a road that no longer provides the service motorists are paying for. In an open letter addressed to the Ministers of Public Works and Finance on Thursday, July 30th, FOCACO President Afonse Ayisi Abener said the one strategic highway has deteriorated into what he described as a dead road, with heavy rains exposing motorists to deep craters washed out sections, and dangerous gullies. Users are no longer driving on a tarred road, the latest stated. The material damage suffered by citizens now runs into millions of francs. CFA, bus tires, destroyed suspension systems, repeated accidents, and considerable economic delays. FOCACO protest reflects growing frustration over the state of road infrastructure across much of southern Cameroon, where several major highways have fallen into disrepair despite motorists continuing to pay toll charges. Road users have repeatedly complained that key transport corridors are riddled with potholes, erosion, and collapsed sections that slow movement, increase transport costs, and heighten the risks of accidents. The organization questioned the justification for maintaining toll collection on roads that have seen little or no visible maintenance. Toll fees introduced in the late 1990s were intended to finance the upkeep and rehabilitation of Cameroon's road network. However, critics argue that many of the country's roads continues to deteriorate while there is little transparency regarding how toll revenues are managed. Well, according to FOCACO, the continued collection of toll fees on the Bandja Bafang stretch violates Decree number 98013 of 1998 regulating toll collection. While presupposes that motorists are paying for the use and maintenance of functional road infrastructure, the foundation also cited Cameroon's consumer protection legislation, arguing that citizens are entitled to safe, reliable, and equitable public services, warning that public frustration has reached a critical level. The consumer rights groups cautioned that continued inaction could provoke unrest among road users. FOCACO has therefore called on the government to immediately suspend toll collection at the Bandja toll station and launch urgent rehabilitation works on the Bandja Bafang section of the National Road 5. The latest appeal adds to a mounting pressure on authorities to address the wider deterioration of road infrastructure in southern Cameroon, where poor road conditions continues to affect trade, mobility, and the daily lives of thousands of commuters and transport operators. Right away from that, let's head into Bafoussam, where a wave of grief and outrage has swept through the Bafang neighborhood in Bafoussam following their tragic discovery of the body of a 23-year-old woman who had been reported missing for nearly 2 days. The victim, identified as Aisha, had traveled from Yaoundé to Bafoussam to spend the holiday period with her family. What was expected to be a routine visit ended in tragedy after she mysteriously disappeared on Sunday under circumstances that are now the subject of a police investigation. According to local sources, Aisha left her family residence after a group of young men reportedly visited the home and asked her to accompany them outside. Relatives said she never returned, prompting growing concern and an extensive search by family members, neighbors, and other residents. After nearly 48 hours of searching, community members made a grim discovery on Tuesday evening when her body was found in a bushy area in the Bafang neighborhood. By the time she was found, the body had already begun to decompose, suggesting she had been dead for some time before the discovery. Local sources alleged that the victim's face, hands, and legs were bound and that her body showed signs of severe physical assault. However, authorities have not yet officially confirmed the cause of death or the extent of her injuries, pending forensic examination and the outcome of ongoing investigations. The victim's body has since been transferred for further examinations as investigators work to establish the exact circumstances surrounding her death. The victim has triggered widespread shock and condemnation within the community, with residents calling for swift justice and stronger measures to address violence against women and rising insecurity in the area. Many expressed fears over the increasing number of violent crimes and urged authorities to ensure those responsible are identified and prosecuted. Security forces have launched an investigation into the killing and are working to determine the sequence of events leading to Aisha's death. No arrests have been announced, and police have yet to issue an official statement providing further details on their case. Away from that, another sad incident: the parish priest of Ngarum parish in the Catholic Diocese of Kumbo, Reverend Father Jude Nkwen, was abducted on Wednesday night by unidentified armed men in Ngarum in Ndu County. According to initial reports, the priest was taken from the parish presbytery under circumstances that remains unclear. As of the time of publication, his whereabouts remain unknown, and no individual or group had officially claimed responsibility for the abduction. The incident has heightened concerns over the deteriorating security situation across the southern Cameroons, where years of armed war have left communities living in constant fear. The nation has witnessed recurring clashes between the government forces and armed men since the crisis began in 2017. The protracted war has resulted in thousands of deaths, widespread displacement, and the destruction of homes, schools, health facilities, and places of worship. Civilians have frequently found themselves caught in the crossfire, while kidnappings, targeted killings, arbitrary arrests, and attacks on villages have become recurring features of the war. Religious leaders have increasingly faced security threats because of their role within local communities. Churches have often served as places of refuge for displaced civilians and as platforms for peace advocacy, placing clergy in vulnerable positions amid the ongoing war. The abduction of Reverend Father Jude Nkwen underscores the persistent insecurity affecting many parts of the southern Cameroons, particularly in rural communities where armed groups continue to operate and the security forces remains limited. Residents in several localities continue to live under the constant threat of violence, with many families forced to flee their homes in search of safety. The Catholic Diocese of Kumbo and the wider Christian communities have called for prayer for the safe and unconditional release of the priest, while appealing to all parties to respect the sanctity of religious institutions and protect civilians from further harm. Authorities have yet to issue a detailed statement on the incidents, and investigations into the abductions are ongoing. Well, that's all we have for you from news from the home front in southern Cameroons. When we return from the break, we'll head into Central Africa, specifically Burkina Faso, as Burkina Faso hits Canal Plus with heavier fine over state TV access. Burkina Faso's media regulator has imposed a strong, significantly larger fine on French pay TV broadcaster Canal Plus, accusing the company of failing to comply with regulations requiring subscribers to have free access to the country's state-owned television channels. The decision, contained in a statement seen by newsmen on Wednesday, marks the latest escalation in tensions between Burkina Faso's military-led authorities and foreign media organizations operating in the country. Well, the regulator said Canal Plus had failed to make the national broadcaster's channel freely accessible on its platform despite previous directives and an earlier financial penalty over the same issue. While the regulator did not immediately disclose whether Canal Plus intends to challenge the latest sanction, the company now faces increased pressure to comply with local broadcasting rules or risk further penalties. The move comes as Burkina Faso's transitional government has tightened its oversight of the media since military officers seized power in 2022. Authorities have suspended or restricted several international media outlets, including French broadcasters, accusing them of biased reporting and threatening national security, allegations that the affected organizations have denied. Relations between Burkina Faso and France have deteriorated sharply in recent years, with Ouagadougou reducing military and diplomatic ties with its former colonial ruler, while strengthening partnerships with countries like Russia. The dispute involving Canal Plus, a major French media company with a large subscriber base across Francophone Africa, reflects the broader strain in relations between the two countries. Canal Plus remains one of the leading paid television providers in West and Central Africa, offering a mix of international and local programming. The latest find shows the increasing assertive approach adopted by Burkina Faso's regulators as they seek to enforce national broadcasting requirements and expand the visibility of the state media. When we return from the break, we'll head to the globe, where U.S. welcomes Chad's ICC exit, urge more nations to leave Hague-based courts. The United States has welcomed Chad's decision to withdraw from the International Criminal Court, calling on other member states, particularly in Africa, to follow suit in what signals a renewed campaign against the Hague-based tribunal. Washington described Chad's move as a step towards protecting national sovereignty, reiterating its long-standing opposition to the ICC's jurisdiction over nationals of countries that have not ratified the Rome Statute, the treaty that established the court. The development comes amid growing tensions between the United States and the ICC following recent investigations and arrest warrants involving U.S. allies, including Israeli officials. The U.S. has consistently argued that court exceeds its mandate and has over the years imposed sanctions and other measures against ICC officials. Although some of these restrictions have been lifted and later reconsidered under different administrations, Chad's withdrawal also revives a broader debate over Africa's relationship with the ICC. Several African governments have previously accused the court of disproportionately targeting African leaders while failing to hold powerful nations accountable. Although countries such as Burundi formally withdrew from the ICC in 2017, others, including South Africa and the Gambia, have reversed all suspended plans to leave after domestic and international pressure. The ICC, established in 2002 and headquartered in The Hague, Netherlands, is mandated to prosecute individuals accused of genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression when national courts are unable or unwilling to do so. The court currently has 125 member states, but major powers, including the United States, China, Russia, and India, are not parties to the Rome Statute. Analysts say Washington's endorsement of Chad's decision could embolden other governments critical of the ICC, particularly in Africa, potentially deepening divisions over the future role and legitimacy of the world's only permanent International Criminal Tribunal. Oh, well, we'll of course stick to this update. Hopefully within the week, we'll definitely bring you more as we head into the weekend. That's all we have for you on tonight's Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at the stories that made it to tonight's headlines. Tonight on Undaunted, we told you that fear has gripped Mile 6 and Nkwen as insecurity spread across Bamenda neighborhood. Also tonight, we told you that FOCACO is demanding suspension of toll collection on Bandja Bafang Road. Also tonight, we told you that a missing 23-year-old woman was found dead in a bush after 2-day search in Bafoussam, while Gunmen has kidnapped a Catholic priest in Ngarum. On the African scene, we went to Burkina Faso, where Burkina Faso hits Canal Plus with heavier fine over state TV access. On the global scene, U.S. welcomed Chad's ICC exits, urges more nations to leave Hague-based courts. And that's it for tonight's Undaunted. Bringing into the news untold stories. And of course, we sincerely apologize that for today, Barrister Mbesier was not able to join us. By next week, hopefully, he will join the conversation. On behalf of the team, the technical team behind tonight's production, it's good night and God bless you.